All right, now let's discuss this further. We're now joined via Zoom by advocate Brenda Madumise-Pajibo WISE Collective Director. Ma'am, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Now, before we even talk about, some solutions, as you've heard, in the form of castration, firstly, your reaction to the recent gang rape of the women in Krugersdorp. I mean, this incident, this rape, has again sent shockwaves across the country, with many women calling for some form of protection and urgency from law enforcement authorities.
Good afternoon. I think what has happened in Krugersdorp happens daily in this country. There are women who are gang raped. Their cases don't make it to be as pronounced and brought into the public domain as this has happened in the Krugersdorp. So we are confronted with daily rape cases of women of the LGBTQI community. We've got gang rapes. We've had gang rapes of women and young girls in this country that happened brazenly and with impunity. So Krugersdorp is no different. It's just that it's in the spotlight, and correctly so that it should be in the spotlight, because once it comes to the spotlight, we are forced to deal with it and confront the monster that it is and for what it is. So, what is important out of this from Krugersdorp is how effective the investigation is going to be, so that we have a conviction, and that conviction sends a strong message that those who intend of violating others can stop, because they realize that the criminal justice system acts swiftly, correctly, and with urgency. So for me, what is important is strengthening of the criminal justice system. If we are not going to have an effective policing that responds with agility when these cases happen, and immediately act on them, investigate them without wasting any time and getting convictions, that's when you realize that will serve as a deterrent to many others, because at the moment it's not a deterrent, because they know how long it takes for any case to come before the courts in this country.
And I want us to explore a little bit about that, just the legal implications in this particular case. But let's talk now about this. The ANC's Social Transformation Subcommittee wants rapists to be chemically castrated. Can castration be a solution to curb rape, when we know that rape is more about power than anything else?
Listen, if you look at the many jurisdictions that have got chemical castration as a form of punishment or a treatment, and that has been used in many jurisdictions. So I'll give you examples. In the US, they've got 8 states that uses chemical castration in rape cases of children. So it's child molestation, it's pedophilia. They use chemical castration in Florida, in California, in Iowa, in Montana, in Louisiana, in Alabama. So you have it in those jurisdictions. You have it in Europe. You've got it in Belgium. You've got it in France. You've got it in South Korea. You've got it in Czech Republic, which is the only country actually that does surgical castration. The other countries do chemical castration. And all of them, without fail, if you look at those jurisdictions, is when a child has been molested, a child has been raped, a child has been raped by a pedophile. And they use chemical castration, one, as a form of treatment on the perpetrator. So you remember, with them is that the effective system has worked and has convicted this perpetrator. The perpetrator spends time in jail because they're sentenced to a jail term. One of the things that should happen if they are being considered for parole is that castration will come into being. The authorities will say, because we have looked at your history and we think that you might commit this crime again, we are now going to apply chemical castration, and you as a perpetrator must consent to all of that. So it's used in cases where the children are being molested, it's children who are being violated, raped, and there's pedophilia in it, and you bring in castration as a form of treatment more than being a punishment. There are very few jurisdictions that use it as a punishment. Most jurisdictions use it as a form of treatment, because you have a person who is inclined to rape, whether you send them to prison or not. When they come out, they're going to do it again. And if you realize that is the case, then you use chemical castration.
Advocate, I'd like you to wrap just this up for me in about 30 seconds, if you can. You know, when you hear statistics of 1 in 6 rapes in South Africa involves 2 or more perpetrators, I mean, those are staggering numbers. But recently, you've also, responded to statistics that keep coming out about these rapes and the shockwaves that come after that, but then nothing is done. What would you like to see more after these quarterly reports are released by the SABC?
There are multiple things that we can do, and for us is the attitude of those given the responsibility to enforce laws, right? So if we believe that rape is a crime, sexual violation, sexual assault is a crime, the response to it must match the heinous crime that it is. That's the first thing. The second thing that we should be spending resources and actually marshalling all the resources that we have as a country is on prevention. We're spending time being reactive and having campaigns, endless campaigns, but we are not spending time on prevention strategies that are going to get us to a point where we don't talk about 10 women gang raped, 5 women gang raped, a child being raped, a child being molested. And unless and until we do that and spend time and resources on prevention strategies, we are continually going to be spending time on the after effects and getting outraged after the fact. And for me, we have to do, yeah.
Advocate Brenda Madumise-Pajibo, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Obviously, a very difficult conversation, but one that needs to be had.